What's up, everyone, and welcome back for another lesson. I'm Miss Bond, and I'm here with my 5th graders at Anderson Avenue Elementary School. Today we'll combine information from several texts on the same topic in order to write or speak about the subject. Let's go ahead and get started. Types of reefs. A reef is formed from rock, sand, and coral. There are 3 main types of reefs. Fringing reefs are found near coastlines of islands and continents. Fringing reefs have either no lagoon or shallow and narrow lagoons. Lagoons separate the reef from the land. Fringing reefs are the most common type of reef. They are found in the Bahamas and the Red Sea. So you can see this is an example of a fringing reef. Barrier reefs are also along coastlines. Barrier reefs differ from fringing reefs. They are separated from the land by wider and deeper lagoons. Their most shallow points can reach the surface of the water and form barriers. The Great Barrier Reef in Australia is the largest barrier reef in the world. Many of the Great Barrier Reef's parts are actually fringing reefs. And atoll is a continuous barrier reef that forms a ring around a lagoon. They create protected lagoons. Atolls are usually in the middle of the ocean. They often form when islands surrounded by fringing reefs sink into the ocean. They can also form when sea levels rise. There are many atolls in the South Pacific. Reefs are amazing structures. They are formed in nature and are homes to many plants and animals. And we've got images of each example of the discussed types of reefs. Okay, now we're going to read another text that's solely focused on the barrier reef. The Great Barrier Reef is the largest coral reef system in the world. It contains more than 2,900 individual reefs. The Great Barrier Reef is longer than 1,400 miles. It spans 900 islands. The Great Barrier Reef is in the Coral Sea. It is off the coast of Queensland, Australia. The Great Barrier Reef is so large that it can be seen from space. It is built by billions of coral polyps, which are small living organisms. It was distinguished as a World Heritage Site in 1981. The Great Barrier Reef holds cultural importance for the Aboriginal, Australian, and Torres Strait Islanders. It is also a very important tourist destination. About 2 million tourists love to boat and scuba dive in the reef. It was also labeled as one of the 7 natural wonders of the world. Much of the reef is protected. This limits human use, such as fishing and tourism. Human interaction with the reef can cause harm to the reef. The Great Barrier Reef has lost over half of its coral since 1985. This is due to many different environmental factors. Harm to the reef greatly impacts the ecosystem. The Great Barrier Reef is home to many diverse plants and animals. Some species that dwell here are endangered. There are 30 species of whales, dolphins, and porpoises that live around the Great Barrier Reef. More than 1,500 species of fish live here. There are 17 species of sea snakes. 6 different types of sea turtles breed on the reef. There are about 125 species of sharks, stingrays, and skates on the reef. The Great Barrier Reef is also home to 2,195 plant species. So this passage, our third one, is all about reefs in danger. This is a picture of bleached coral, which is caused by increased water temperatures, and bleached coral often dies. Coral reefs are important to economics and our ecosystem. They are major tourist destinations. Coral reefs bring in $29.8 and $375 billion each year. Coral reefs protect shorelines because they absorb energy from waves. Some small islands would not exist without reefs. 15 tons of seafood per square kilometer is eaten each year. Coral reefs around the world are dying. Humans are causing some of this damage. Pollution impacts reefs. Due to climate changes, sea levels rise and temperatures change. This impacts the plants and animals in reefs. A study in 2013 showed that air pollution stunts the growth of reefs. People overfish, and overfishing affects the balance of the ecosystems. People dig canals to access islands around reefs, which impacts the reefs. It is estimated that about 10% of the world's coral reefs are dead, and 60% of reefs are at risk due to human interference. Organizations are taking action to save reefs. Marine protected areas protect the habitats and restrict harmful human activities. Some areas prevent overfishing and pollution. Protected areas are seeing healthier reefs. It is also possible to restore coral through coral farming. Science is coming up with new ways to preserve coral reefs. Let's go ahead and answer some questions. Answer the following questions. Underline the text evidence in the color indicated. Number 1, read these sentences from the Great Barrier Reef. So that's the text. Go ahead and underline your text. That's the one we're going back to. The Great Barrier Reef. The Great Barrier Reef has lost over half of its coral since 1985. This is due to many environmental factors. According to Reefs in Danger, what environmental factors, so I would put a box around environmental factors, because when we go back to our text, that's what we're going to be looking for. Things that affect the what? Environment. Good. According to Reefs in Danger, so this is another text, what environmental factors probably cause damage to the Great Barrier Reef? So let's go back to Reefs in Danger. So we have pollution causes some of these. Pollution impacts reefs. Climate change causes sea levels to rise and temperatures to change, which creates this bleaching thing that ends up killing them. So let's write a little note. Therefore, our answers should have been air pollution and coral bleaching. You should have put A and C. That is what is discussed in the text. Now we're going to do this in orange. The table contains sentences from the passage about reefs. We have the passage types of reef and the Great Barrier Reef. This section came from types of reefs. The Great Barrier Reef in Australia is the largest barrier reef in the world. Many of the Great Barrier Reef's parts are actually fringing reefs. Okay, now let's read the section from the Great Barrier Reef. Remember, these are two different texts that they're coming out of. The Great Barrier Reef is the largest coral reef system in the world. It contains more than 2,900 individual reefs. Using the information from the two articles, explain how the Great Barrier Reef is both a barrier reef and a fringing reef. So how is it both of them? Go back to your text and read, looking for how it is a barrier reef and a fringing reef. So how is it both a barrier reef and a fringing reef? Let's get our orange and go back to the text. So it says right here that many of the Great Barrier Reef's parts are actually fringing reefs. So its parts are fringing reefs, and it says, the Great Barrier Reef is the largest coral reef system in the world. It contains more than 2,900 individual reefs, and those reefs can have fringing reefs. Let's write that now. For number 2, you should have this answer. The Great Barrier Reef is both a barrier reef and a fringing reef because it is an expanding reef system. The barrier reef has more than 2,900 individual reefs, and those reefs have fringing reefs. For number 3, we're going to grab our yellow and answer the following question. Which sentence most accurately combines the information from all 3 passages about reefs? So we're thinking about what we've learned and what is stated in all 3 passages about coral reefs. Let's go back to the text now. We see in the very first sentence that coral reefs are important to economics and our ecosystem. That is extremely important. We should have gathered this information while reading all three of the texts. Let's go back to the others. Reefs are amazing structures. That's probably going to be able to help me answer the question. It's home to many diverse plants and animals. It holds cultural importance for the people from Australia. So we're finding out that coral reefs are actually extremely important, okay? Let's take the information that we've underlined and the evidence that we've underlined in our text and apply it to the question. Which sentence most accurately combines the information from all three passages about reefs? A, humans need to protect reefs. B, there are many different types of reefs. C, many different animals depend on reefs. D, reefs are amazing natural structures and are important to the Earth's ecosystem. Which one is the best answer? Very good. Can you read it for us? Beautiful. You should have gotten D. That's all for our lesson today. Great job, and we'll see you back here next time.